Hello guys, welcome to the voice blog part 3. This episode carries on directly from the previous episode, so if you haven't watched the previous episode, I recommend you do so. Please comment, rate and subscribe, and I hope you enjoy this week. So, lip rolls is the second exercise, and you can do it in exactly the same way with exactly the same approach. The reason lip rolls are so good is because that is your consistent airflow right there. You don't have to think, is my airflow consistent? How do I tell that my airflow is consistent? I don't know if it's consistent because, well, it sounds consistent, so why isn't it working? Well, you can have subtle changes in airflow, and directly related to that is compression, as we mentioned. And you won't really notice that easily unless you're a teacher and you've been teaching for your whole life, which obviously few of us have. I haven't even taught more than 1 or 2 people directly one-on-one. So I wouldn't consider myself a teacher because teaching voice is very difficult. But an obvious way that you can discern whether your airflow and compression are staying consistent is with lip rolls. And many students struggle with consistent airflow and compression. It's one of the biggest obstacles that struggling singers have. And so, if you're struggling with your singing, chances are you're struggling with airflow and compression. And therefore lip rolls can be very useful to you. So, that's what's underneath a lip roll. And the consistent airflow is there. That should stay the same from the bottom to the top. This is also good for outer muscles. If I start tightening my mouth as I go up, or I have a tendency to, lip rolls won't work. So it forces you to take the mouth and the jaw out of the process. If you start messing around with your jaw as well, the lip roll won't work. But most importantly, what the chords are doing, the lips will mirror. So if the chords have too much airflow, the lips will have too much airflow. If the chords have not enough airflow, too much closure, the lips will stop. So see these as your lips. They're like your second pair of lips that are right there. You can see them because, vocal cords. They're like a second pair of vocal cords. All your vocal cords are a second pair of lips, if that makes sense. When you think about it, they're doing the same thing. My vocal cords are coming together and they're vibrating and producing sound. And that's what the lips do when you do a lip roll. They're coming together, air's passing through them, and they're creating sound. So you can actually see, when you do a lip roll, you can actually see these as what your vocal cords are doing almost in a pretty direct way, and this is why the lip roll is so useful. So when you're doing the lip roll, you want to focus on the lips and keeping that consistent. And if you start moving around with the lips, that will stop. If you start squeezing too much or not squeezing enough, you will hear things like, for a not squeezing enough, you would hear the lips more bigger vibrations, and you will just hear in an obvious way that there's more air coming through. And if there's too much squeeze, the lips will stop vibrating. And to subtler degrees, obviously. At some point, you might have a little bit of squeeze, but you should still be able to discern more easily with the lips there than without. So use the lip rolls as a tool to understand when you're squeezing and when you're not squeezing, and to start learning consistency up and down your range. So the lip roll, let's give it a go. And again, just a simple slide, but focusing on what you're actually doing and what's happening as you're going up and down. So consistency, consistent airflow, consistent compression, up and down. Again, the sound should be consistently in the same place, and you should be concerned about what am I doing that's impacting that lip roll? What am I doing that is changing the lip roll as I go up? Because the pitch is the only thing that should be changing, nothing else. And this is one of the tricky things that struggling singers find hard, is that they're thinking about so much more and doing so much more than they need to. In a lip roll, the only thing that should be changing is the pitch. That's it. Nothing else should be changing. So if you start and it's very simple, then it actually has to stay that simple at the top of the exercise as well. The only thing that should have changed is the pitch. The sound should be in the same place. The tongue should be in the same place. These muscles shouldn't be doing anything. The airflow should be the same. So, the lip rolls, very useful, and I hope that gives you a bit of background as to why they're useful. The third exercise, long edgy slides, long heady sirens. And the reason that these three exercises are mouth closed, lip rolls, mouth closed, and edgy sirens, quiet and relatively simple in terms of the amount of energy you're going to need to coordinate, is that if you're struggling as a singer, you have to break things down. So with the mouth closed, you can forget about a big section of singing. You can just cut it off. Everything to do with opening your mouth and pronouncing words and communicating with the audience in terms of, you know, the words and the way you make your words. All of that is not involved in that exercise, so you don't even have to think about it with the humming and the lip rolls. And this is one of the things that you have to do with singing when you're learning, is you have to get rid of loads of stuff and break it all down into very simple pieces. And when the mouth's closed with the hum and the lip roll, it cuts huge portions of the complexity out of it, and it just gets you to focus on one or two simple things. And breaking it down like that will help you hugely, because it says to the mind, I'm going to focus on this now, and I don't have to worry about all that other stuff, and so I can actually learn. Whereas when, for example, you go right into a song and you're struggling with singing, there is just too much going on for your mind to process. If you're struggling with singing, there is just like so much going on. And I think that a lot of singers don't realise, whilst singing is simple when you're good at it, there is also a lot of stuff going on. They're having to have a clear separation between what the chords are doing and what the mouth is doing. So all these words they're pronouncing, all of that muscle work is separated from this muscle work. The airflow has to be consistent. the chords have to be consistent in terms of thinning out pitch and compression staying the same. Or, well, in a song, in fact, the compression will vary. So they have to be managing the amount of airflow with that compression, whilst they're managing all the different words that they're saying, and that isn't having, these two are completely separated, whilst they have no outer muscles interfering in the process. This is a explanation of good singing, but my point is that all of that's natural to them who are good at singing, but all of that is natural because they have what they're actually doing is complicated. It's not just as simple as opening your mouth and sound coming out. There is a complicated mechanical muscle process going on whenever you sing. So the more you can break that down and separate everything out as you learn, the easier it is when you actually come to sing songs to go, oh, right. So, oh, right, I understand now. So, where was I? See, I go off on these tangents because I get all these ideas and then I lose where I was initially. But my point being, when you break things down and you take the mouth out of the process, you're just focusing on what the chords are doing and any outer muscles. There's another time and a place to worry about what happens when I open my mouth. When I'm singing a word like stay and I go stare, everything falls to bits. But and you're thinking, but my humming and lip rolls are fine. Well, that's because you don't have a clear enough separation yet between what the chords are doing and what the mouth is doing. But that's another lesson, that's another time that you need to work on that. At the moment, we're just working on what are the chords doing. The hum, the lip roll, and the third exercise, see, I was going to get round to that, the long edgy slides and the long heady sirens. Now, after those first two exercises, these actually do open the mouth, so the mouth is slightly involved, but it's not a complicated involvement. It's not something that's going to overwhelm you necessarily. So the long edgy slide. Now, an edgy sound is a sound that is coordinated and the chords are closed. It's a very light sound, but it's a good way to not have to, you don't have to worry about, when the sound's nice and quiet, you don't have to worry about all of that. It's like the difference between, if you're weightlifting in a gym, if you're just lifting 20 pounds, it's quite easy, you know, and you can really get used to doing that. If you just went into a gym and said, right, I'm going to lift a huge amount of weight, I don't even know if 20 pounds is heavy actually, but imagine a light amount of weight. I mean, 20 pounds, I'm guessing it's not that heavy. It's probably like 3 babies or 5 babies or something. Is 5 babies heavy? Probably quite heavy. Anyway, so you're lifting a light amount of weight. It's, you know, you can kind of think of what's going on. If you're going to lift a lot of weight and you're not 100% sure what you're doing, Jesus, you're going to struggle. So when you focus on quiet sounds and light sounds, it's like a small amount of weight you're lifting. It's not that hard physically to do. So you can just concentrate on the coordination rather than concentrating on the physical effort. Because I will say that however people take the idea of singing at the level that you speak at, or that kind of idea, if you're going to sing full out with a lot of energy, it's going to take energy and it's going to take focused energy. It's not something that is, it's easy in a sense, but it's also, it does take focus, and you know, you're doing something that takes energy. So if we do an exercise, a quiet, edgy exercise, it takes the worry of that out. Like I said, we're trying to get rid of stuff that we don't need to worry about and focus on things we do. So, a light, edgy slide. What is a light, edgy slide? Like I said, it's a closed coordination. There's no excess air, and it is quiet. So you could actually do it on numerous different vowels or consonants. Whatever you find comfortable, pick one and stick with it. So I find just the simplest one, which I think most people do. That's it. Just So and you might find the vocal fry comes in a little bit here and there. That's not a huge deal. Ultimately, you want it to be completely consistent, but it's actually quite hard to keep an edgy exercise consistent, especially when you're starting out, because any tiny amount of change in the compression will impact it, and you'll be able to hear it straight away. And this is one of the reasons the edge exercise is so good. So let's just give you a demonstration to show you, because I won't stop talking for some reason right now. So if I go and what you want to get is the quietest, easiest sound you can, and slide. Now I'm struggling myself with my edge exercise today, and when you hear those kinds of bits, flips and cracks, they're not necessarily a huge deal, because what you find is the most important thing is the exercise staying consistent, and that's not necessarily indication of a huge inconsistency. Whereas if I did something like and I can't see something obvious, more obvious is changing, the airflow is increasing, the edges, the exercise at that point is losing its purpose, because I want to keep it edgy and consistent from the bottom to the top. So you have to have a certain amount of leeway for what your voice is doing on that particular day, but again, we're focusing on compression, consistency in the compression. Easy. It shouldn't be hard. It shouldn't be that's not an edge exercise. That's over squeezing. It should be easy. It should just be like and it essentially is just the edges, the fine edges of the chords coming together, and then you just thin them out. You keep the compression the same, you keep the airflow the same, and you just thin your chords out. And the lighter you can do it, the quieter you can do it, and the more consistent you can do it, you'll find that you're learning something. It's easy to notice anything going on. It's easy to notice the outside muscles and any change in the coordination, because you're not having to worry about managing huge amounts of air. You're not having to worry about all that energy it's going to take. It's just very easy and light. And that one was a bit better, and it was better because I was just focusing a bit more on keeping it consistent. And think about what you're doing when you're doing this. So with the edge exercises, I'm basically bringing the fine edges of the chords together. I'm stretching out the chords whilst maintaining that nice light edge. I'm not over squeezing, and I am thinning out into head voice. And it's a good way to get used to the feeling of your chords thinning out without the influence or without any extra stuff going on. And this is what you're trying to learn. You're trying to learn to coordinate the voice, to thin out your voice in pitch, in a simple way without any extra stuff going on. And these 3 exercises are good ways to start thinking about that and thinking about it in the right way. And really what you want to do is, if you're really serious about singing and you're struggling a lot, is you just want to sit there, do these kinds of exercises and observe what you're doing. In your mind, observe what you're doing. Actually think, what am I doing? And when it goes wrong, you need to understand why it's going wrong and what you're doing that's impacting the sound. Most of what singing teachers do is they make the singer aware of something they hadn't noticed before. So they will say, the singer will do something to them which is obvious, to the teacher which is obvious, which is a manipulation of the sound, and the teacher will say, let's try, I don't know, they might say, let's try a dopey exercise like a b, and the singer will go do the exercise and they'll go b b b ba, and the teacher will say, the teacher will say, let's keep the exercise consistent, keep it ba, and the singer will all of a sudden start thinking, right, I need to keep it ba. I was keeping it ba, wasn't I? And they will think, the teacher will say, I'm getting ba at the top, and the singer will all of a sudden, by just concentrating on ba 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 ba, all of a sudden, if they focus on the ba 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 ba, and not ba 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 ba, there's a difference there. And the difference is often, well, there could be numerous differences, but it's making them become aware of small changes and small manipulations in the height of the larynx, which is directly impacted by, you guessed it, the swallowing muscles. So the teacher is making the singer become aware of things that they weren't aware of. And this is why one of the reasons why learning to sing can be so hard, because if you aren't aware of something, you won't notice it, and because you're not noticing it, you're not aware of it. So you have to make an effort to become aware of things that you're missing if you're struggling with your singing. You have to start to become aware of small details that you weren't thinking about before. And everything in this episode that I spoke about before, the exercises and the points I've made, is to encourage you to start focusing when you do your exercises on the right things, and focusing on, the reason I keep doing this is because if you put your thumbs under there, like I said, you can monitor these muscles, and it's very useful. And I've just got into the habit today of, every time I do an exercise, pretending that I am you out there, thinking, right, I need to think about these outer muscles. So I'm trying to help you, because every time you do an exercise, if those muscles are coming in, you need to be aware of them. But what I'm trying to show you with these exercises and with this approach today is, you need to become intimately aware of what you're doing when you sing and what is actually going on. You need to separate out the basic functions, the basic different things you're doing. You need to separate it all out. The words in the mouth, the chords, the airflow, and all the different exercises you do that help you separate out all these different things that you need to learn if you want to bring a voice together into a good solid voice. You need to, that's what I'm trying to explain to you and show you. You need to start thinking about what you're doing, and you need to start becoming aware of what you're doing. Right, guys, I hope that's helped you today. I know it was kind of long, and I know it was I went off on tangents, but I've found with other teachers, when I've heard them speak, that a lot of the tangents can actually be more useful than the 3 exercises that they were talking about, because it's all about the context and all about learning about these details that are more important than you first thought. So I hope I've helped today, and focus on these 3 exercises if you are struggling with your singing, and see what you figure out. See if you notice that there's outer muscles. See if you notice that your compression isn't staying the same. See what you can figure out for yourself, and see how that impacts your other exercises and the other parts of your singing. And if you do figure anything out, or you have any kind of epiphanies about your voice, then make comments, rate and subscribe, and let me know, because it's interesting to me, the breakthroughs that people have, the same breakthroughs that I've had in the past, and that I've come to understand better. So I know how exciting that those breaking through some of those things can be, and how it can feel like, oh my god, I figured something out. So comment if you do figure anything out for yourself, and let me know, because it's nice to hear about. Please keep singing and enjoying your singing, and I will see you next week. Thanks guys, take care, bye.